What made Britain Britain, prior to the 16th century, before the British Empire, before Britain got involved in slavery, Britain was a small country in the North Atlantic, doesn't have many resources, and wasn't really going anywhere. What made Britain take off was its involvement in the slave trade, and the Royal African Company, which was the company founded to initially start enslaving Africans for the British Empire, was the company that enslaved more Africans than any company in the world. Britain was the premier slave trading nation. And all the things, if you think about what made Britain Britain, first it is gold and it is silver, it is then financialization, the stock market, etc. Then it's tobacco. And those are the things which power Britain's development. So on one hand, you have Britain making massive strides in the Industrial Revolution, becoming this great nation at the top of the world. But then look at what happens to the people who had to do that. The Caribbean, for example, is a perfect example where my family's from. We're taken there in chains, made to produce all this wealth. Sugar was the first one that really pushed Britain forward. But then you look 200 years later, how is somewhere like Jamaica doing? It's one of the poorest countries in the world. And that's not an accident. That's because the whole country and the economy was designed to drain money out and give it to Britain. And the best example of this is when they ended slavery in 1838, eventually. The British government paid the largest payment ever, equivalent to about £100 billion, if you look at GDP, to the slave owners. And the enslaved got nothing, and in fact had to work had to work for 4 years, 75% of their time as slaves to prove they were fit to be free. And we still see the legacy of that today.
If you can talk about expressing dissent today in Britain, the whole issue of whether you can say you are against the monarchy, that you want it to end.
Well, it's interesting. I'd say that I've spoken to probably about 20 journalists. I've done interviews like this all week. Not one of them has been with the British press. There has been wall-to-wall coverage of the funeral. Like any TV channel on, it's just Queen, 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 Queen. And no dissent, no questioning the role, no questioning the future of the monarchy, none of this. It really has been a week of propaganda, which has come to a crescendo today where absolutely everything is closed. And you did report on some of the way that protests are being dealt with. I mean, honestly, if you just step back from this and said, well, actually, how has this been treated? It's not too far from fascism, actually. And it is, and people say it's not the right time now. When else would be the best time to question the role of the monarchy when there is a 70-year reign of what a very ended? Surely now is the perfect time to wonder why on earth we would have this monarchy, why on earth it would represent 14 other countries in the world where the monarchy is head of state. And even in Britain, this is an old institution, deeply racist, deeply classist, deeply patriarchal. It just needs to go. And this is the perfect time to discuss when it should end.